Good morning. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2024. 5 years ago, I had the privilege to be in Israel for Yom HaZikaron, which is today, Israel's Memorial Day, and Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day. And as I mentioned to you before, it's really not possible to experience these days outside of Israel to the extent and to the depth and with the emotion that they are experienced in Israel. And if you ever have the opportunity to be there, if I ever have the opportunity to be there, it's really worthwhile because it's a completely different experience. So, 5 years ago, I was there and I wanted to think to myself, what should I do on Yom HaZikaron? There's so many different things that are meaningful. But what I decided to do, I was staying in Jerusalem, I decided to go to Har Hertzl. Har Hertzl is near Yad Vashem, the outskirts of Jerusalem. It is the main military cemetery of Israel, the National Military Cemetery of Israel, although there are military cemeteries all over Israel. And what happens on Yom HaZikaron is, first of all, there are programs and speeches and organized activities. And then for most of the day, people come. Families, boyfriends, girlfriends, children. They come to the graves of their loved ones who were buried there. And it's a day. Some people bring a picnic. Of course, some people, year after year, they're seeing the same people who are family members of those buried nearby. People cry. People laugh. People tell stories. And what I decided I would do is just, number one, to be there. And then, in a very, very sensitive way, I walked around and I asked people if they would tell me their story, if they would tell me about the person they were visiting, for whom they were mourning. And of course, some did not want to be intruded on, which is perfectly understandable. But quite a number of them were very, very open and invited me to join them, to sit down with them. And they told me stories, just incredible stories, just first stories of amazing heroism and mundane. He liked to sing. He had a good sense of humor. And it was so meaningful. It was such a deep day for me. I have shared some of these stories in the past, but I want to share one that I heard that day that made a big impact on me and that connects specifically, I think, to this year. So I saw a fellow there, and his name was Benny. And Benny was there visiting the grave of Eyal. Benny and Eyal went together into Lebanon in 2000. Eyal was Benny's closest friend from childhood. Eyal was killed in battle, buried in Har Hertzl. And Benny came every year to visit Eyal, his grave, and to tell some stories to whoever wanted to listen. He told us that his friend Eyal, at the age of 21, understood things in life way ahead of his years. And so he told this story about going into Lebanon. So you know the geography a little bit. There's Lebanon is to the north. It's the northern part of Israel is quite mountainous. There's a mountain range at the northern edge of Israel leading into Lebanon. So Benny and Eyal with their platoon, they crossed into the border into Lebanon. And Eyal says to Benny, Benny, turn around. And Benny didn't understand what he was saying. And Eyal said, Benny, turn around. And they're standing at the top of this ridge. In front of them is Lebanon. And in back of them is all of Israel, which they can see for miles and miles because they're at this high peak. And Benny turns around at the top of this ridge, and he can see the entire northern section of Israel. And Benny understood Eyal. The message was, as they were going into danger, ahead, into Lebanon, into battle, they needed to remind themselves of why they were there and who they were going to defend. And so Eyal had Benny turn around and look at the people of Israel that he was going to defend. Every soldier knows the mission they are on, what they're going to do, where they have to go, what they have to accomplish. But that small moment focused Benny and Eyal on why and for whom they were going into battle and risking their lives. That is the sense of this day, Yom HaZikaron, to recognize the sacrifice, and then Yom HaAtzmaut, what is it for? For whom are we sacrificing? Since the beginning of modern Israeli history, we would not have survived as a nation without a large number of men and women willing to risk their lives, to give their lives for Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, and for Medinat Yisrael, for the state of Israel. And so today we mourn, we remember, we pay tribute to these brave men and women of the IDF, the security services, the police, victims of terror, generations of heroes. And then came October 7th. I want to share with you something written by Elad Teneh, and it appeared in one of the main Israeli newspapers a few days ago, Makor Rishon. Because when October 7th happened, at least in the background, in the back of the mind of some people, this young generation, these new soldiers, some of us, some Israelis, had looked at with ridicule or worry, using in a derogatory manner the TikTok generation. Young Israelis today have become so materialistic, losing their idealism, seemingly less interested in Zionism. in service. Those ideas we were led to believe were held by young people in Israel today to be old-fashioned, no longer so relevant. And these younger people were more interested in foreign travel to exotic places, high-tech, wealth. And there were some people who said to themselves, October 7th, what does this young generation have in common with us? What is it going to have to do with Israel? How will they shape up? In recent months, that generation has reminded us that, as is the case in any chain, it is also tied to us. But no less than that, it also proved that we are dependent on it, on them. After the death and the attacks, this is the generation that revived Israel's spirit, that reminded us what real power is. Over these last number of months, in the midst of the darkness that followed the horrors, this generation shined light. They left behind their families, their children, their careers, their work, and their peaceful lives, and they went out to defend our home. And they went out in order to win. This is the generation that transcended the divisions of the people, that could tell the difference between what really mattered and what didn't, between holy and profane. This is the generation that is now promising that we are here and that we're not going anywhere. This is the generation that lost friends, evacuated wounded, paid Shiva calls, and pressed on. This is the generation that was filled with feelings of guilt, believing it could have done more. And this generation sounded the shofar, reminding every neighborhood along the Gaza Strip, my brother, I am at your side. This is the generation that we, the Jewish people, are blessed to have today. As I said before, may we be worthy of their sacrifices for us. Their memories bless us and ennoble us, and remind every one of us of the ultimate message of the Israel Defense Friends. My brother, my sister, I'm here at your side. My friends, I wish you a meaningful day. Please spend some time today thinking about, reading about, learning about individual soldiers who gave their lives, the heroism, the selflessness, the dedication. And thinking about how we can become worthy of their sacrifice. My friends, I wish you a good day, a meaningful day, a sad but inspiring day. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.